Alright, I'm Steve and I'm here in the Rugged Garage, and today I'm going to do a full radio and intercom install on this Polaris RZR XP1. But keep in mind, it'll be the same install on a Turbo S, a 1000S, a 900S, and even the Trail 1000 that Polaris just came out with. So with that being said, it's time to get our hands dirty, dig into this XP1, and get this installed. Okay, the first thing we want to do is pull all the seats out of the RZR. It's real easy to do. There's a little handle right at the base of the back of each seat. You lift that up, pull it up, and it slides out of the frame. So go ahead and pull all 4 seats out so you can get to that center console. Alright, now we're going to pull that glove box out of the dash. There's one T30 Torx bolt up on top. You got to kind of reach up underneath there. It faces down. It's a little bit of a struggle to get to it, but there's only one, thank goodness. So you pull that bolt out and that center glove box will come out easily. With that glove box out, you'll have to pull that grommet so you can slide the USB port out of the glove box and out of the way. Okay, with that glove box out, you can grab the multi-mount. It just kind of slides in through the bottom and then pushes up to the top. You just want to make sure that you push it in against so that it's flush, and then take your drill and drill a couple holes right where the holes are on the mount, and then we'll use the screws provided in the kit to shove through there and to mount it up. Alright, get both of the screws in place, get the nuts tightened down, and then we can move on from there. So we can start now taking the tunnel out of the RZR. There are several push pins and a few Torx bolts that hold all of that in. You'll want to remove the front piece and the middle piece just so that we can run the power cable down through that tunnel and over to the battery easily. When you pull that back piece of the tunnel out, remember that there is a 12-volt power supply going to it, so you'll have to unplug those 2 wires before you can get that off of there. Next, we're going to grab the radio side of the power cord, and we're going to run it through the front of that tunnel and up the firewall and through the grommet that is just below the bus bar. With the remainder of the power cable running along the harness down the center of the console, you can go ahead and hook up the power and ground to the battery. With the power and ground hooked up to the battery, we use our cable wraps or our R-wraps to secure the power cable to the harness that runs down that tunnel. These things are super easy to use and they're very serviceable, so you can put them on, take them off, however many times you choose without having to cut a bunch of zip ties. Now that our power cord is all installed and secured in the tunnel, we can move on to running the headset cables. So we're going to run all of the headset cables all down the driver's side of the UTV. So we'll need to pull off that front fender to get access to the little cavity that will run those cables through. The reason we do this is to keep all of the headset cables away from the power cords and the coax for the antenna to keep the noise out of the system. So go ahead and grab all of your cables, bundle them up. As you can tell, they're all color-coded on the end. Use an R-wrap, wrap it around, and then run it through the center of the dash and leaving a short little service loop hanging out of the mount itself. Alright, once you have that hanging out the front, you can tie up the rest of the cables to that harness that's underneath there on the firewall. All of the headset cables will go over the top of the electronic steering box that's right underneath the dash, and then over to the side panel where there's a hole that will run the cables through. Alright, once all the cables are run over the top of that steering unit, we used R-wraps and combined all the cables together to keep them from kind of separating before we ran them through that access hole on the left side panel. take the Nexus connector in, the big blue end, and you'll run it right down. Once you get those cables pulled through that little opening, you can run them down in the rocker panel. You'll have to pull the bolts out for the rocker panel all the way down the side of the car, front and back, and then run those cables along there. You want to make sure that when you shove those cables underneath that rocker cover that they clear and don't get caught between the panel and the cage itself. That'll keep the headset cables from getting pinched and damaged. So once you get them run through there, use the cable ties again, wrap them up, get them secured to the cage. Make sure that they're on the inside of the cage itself, so that it protects them if you do land on a rock on the outside of the body. Now just finish running the cables up the side of the car and over to the crossbar. We'll run the headset cable down the left harness on both the driver's side and passenger side. It is the industry standard. So once you get that all buttoned up, you can start putting the fenders back on, get that center console all put back in the tunnel, and start getting this thing ready to be buttoned up. We can put the radio and intercom in and the coax cable. Alright, it's time to run that coax, but this vehicle didn't come with a roof, so we're going to use one of our billet antenna mounts. The cage on these factory Polarises are 1 3/4 inch, which is the bar mount that we grab for it. So you want to get that tightened down, then grab the coax cable or the antenna cable, unscrew that NMO nut and take the little plastic washer off, run it through the bottom of the mount, put the plastic washer back on, and then screw that NMO nut back down. I use a small, and I repeat small, crescent wrench to tighten this down. Remember, it's a brass fitting and it will break fairly easily. You grab our R-wraps and then attach that coax to the cage. If you look, I kind of ran it the long way around to eat up a little of the length. This was a 15-foot cable. Really probably only needed about 13 to get it done, so I did a little hoop on the inside to keep from coiling the cable. So to run the cable up underneath the dash, I had to make a small indentation in the hood portion of the car so that I could run the cable underneath and down and inside the cab. Always remember that you never want to coil up a coax cable or an antenna cable. It creates another antenna and throws it out of tune, and your radio will not perform like it should. Alright, now it's time to get the driver's side PTT mounted to the steering wheel. This is just done with Velcro, but you want to make sure that you put a strain relief on that cable once you get it mounted on the steering wheel. What this does is keeps that cable from getting pulled out of the button if that cable gets caught on your foot or on the steering wheel while you're out riding around. You're going to want to secure the coil cord as well to the steering column, leaving enough room that you can turn the steering wheel lock to lock without it catching on anything. Then go on over to the passenger side, pull that grab bar out, and you have to clearance out the dash just a little bit to get that 3-pin connector to go through there. Once you clearance it out, you can run that 3-pin red connector through the dash and reach around from the inside and pull it over to the mount opening. Once you get it there, make sure you bundle up all the cables, leave yourself a nice little service loop, and tie everything up nice and tight underneath there so it doesn't fall out. Here again, you want to do a nice little strain relief to keep that cable from getting pulled out, and then attach the rest of the cable to the slide on the grab handle so that it still will slide in and out without pulling that cable out. Alright, now go grab the DMU or the insert for the radio and the intercom. You want to take the 2 bolts with the acorn shaped nuts and put them on the intercom portion of the mount, which is a smaller one. I usually will put one at the very end and one on the middle hole. What it does is it makes it a little easier to slide that intercom in because you only have to line one of the heads up at a time. So once you get that stuck in, you can tighten her down and then grab the radio and proceed to put the radio in the mount as well. So the radio will only utilize the front two mounting bolts on the radio housing itself. It's more than sufficient to hold it in place, and it also allows one of the rear bolts to be used for a ground strap. Once you get the small bolts installed, you can align the front. We kind of take the rugged and put the top of the rugged right at the edge of the mount. This will make it so it works with our DMU cover that kind of keeps the water and stuff off of it. So once you get it lined up, make sure it's straight, and then you can tighten those bolts down. Once the radio's tightened down, go ahead and plug in that 5-pin connector that connects the radio to the intercom. Alright, now it's time to grab the ground strap and attach it to the radio and the intercom. So one of the eyelets will go to the back of the radio, the other eyelet will go to the back of the intercom. This eventually will get put to the ground post on your firewall. Now you can go ahead and pull the little plugs out of the back of the intercom. You'll need driver, co-driver, and both of the crew. Alright, the radio and the intercom are ready to go, so now let's put that active filter in. I chose to put it underneath the dash on the side of the glove box. So you just take the little alcohol wipe it down. Once you get it good and clean and let that alcohol dry, you can peel that double-sided tape off the back side of the active filter and then stick it right to the side of the glove box. Once you get that done, you can plug the short end of the power in that comes in from the bulkhead there, and then the other end of that is going to plug into the power harness that we're going to put in shortly. There is a ground cable there that you're going to want to fish through the bulkhead, the grommet, and we can attach it to the ground post up on that bus bar on the firewall. We'll attach that when we get the radio and intercom ground strap run there as well. Alright, we're going to use a master disconnect switch on this Polaris RZR. What it does is it connects the intercom and the radio together and then gives you one switch to turn them on and off. So every time you get in and out of the car, you don't have to readjust your volumes, your Vox levels, and all that. So to get started, you need to pull one of the covers out of the dash so you can run the switch through. I just ran the wires right through the switch hole, left everything attached, and then just snapped that rocker switch right in place. Make sure it's facing the correct direction with the rugged logo up on top and the comms on the bottom. Just a quick little push and it'll snap into place. So the harness itself is literally a plug and play. That blue wire right there will go to a ignition on switch, which is on that bus bar. So that'll turn the light on and off when you're using the switch itself. The other part of it literally just plugs into the active filter, and that gives power to that switch. Okay, once you get that switch plugged in, it's time to start plugging in the radio and the intercom itself. The headset cables and PTTs for the front seats are all color coded, so obviously put the red with the red and the blue with the blue. And then the crew ports, those will be the yellow on the back of the intercom. Both of the crew headset cables are black. You can plug them into either one, it doesn't matter which seat it is. Don't forget to plug in your coax. Make sure it's lined up properly and screwed all the way down. It doesn't have to be super tight, but make sure it's snug. You don't want it coming loose while you're ripping around through the trails. Alright, the next step will be to plug in the radio and the intercom into the Molex connectors that's coming off of the switch. This will allow that switch to turn the radio, the intercom on and off super easily. Okay, with the power and stuff hooked up, we'll grab that ground strap that we had attached to the insert. We're going to run it through that grommet and attach it to the ground post that's on that bus bar on the firewall. With all of the cables attached and power, it's time to put that insert in and grab those 4 little screws and screw it in place. Once all the screws are in, make sure that you tie up any cables that are hanging down underneath the dash with one of our R-wraps. Alright, with the radio and intercom installed, you can go ahead and put all of the seats back in the RZR. The one final thing to do is screw that antenna onto the mount. Once you get it on, you're ready to go out and go play. Alright, with everything installed, we've got all of our cables secured to the seats, got our rocker switch, turns the radio and intercom on. It's time to show you how some of these functions of the radio and the intercom work. Everything from ride command to how the intercom functions and some of the features of the radio. Alright, let's go over a few things with the 696 intercom. So an intercom is your in-car communications. So that would be the communications between the driver, co-driver, and any crew members that you have in the vehicle. This has a double stack pot right here. So this upper knob, there's 2 knobs here. This upper one, that turns the intercom on and off. Turn it all the way one way, clicks off, click it all the way back on. So this is the volume inside the car between driver, co-driver, and the crew members. So you can adjust that however you need to. The knob underneath is the Vox, which is the mic sensitivity. So if you turn that bottom knob all the way to the right, the mics are full on. So the mics will be on all the time. You'll get all that ambient noise coming into your helmet or headset. What you want to do is back it off a little bit until you can't hear all that ambient noise. And then just go test, 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 test. Make sure that mic is right against your lips so it can pick up your voice, and turn on and off as needed. So the next thing on this intercom is you can Bluetooth your phone or the ride command into this intercom. This will control the play pause, your forward back, your volume up and down as well. All right, let's talk about a few of the features of Rugged Radio's RDM DB radio. First, easiest one, this is the power button. Press and hold to turn on, press and hold to turn back off. This will be your volume control. Your P1 button, that will take you into the zone list, so you can run on VHF analog, VHF digital, UHF analog, and then UHF digital, or some of the listen only channels. We're going to leave it on the analog VHF. So right now we've got 1 channel listed on here, which is the BFG relay. So if I press this band button, it'll drop it down, and we have Wilson 2 there. So there's basically 2 channels. So you could put a race channel in and a race ops to make it quick and easy to go back and forth. You can just hit that button. The P2 button doesn't do anything. P3, if you press and hold, what that does is opens up the squelch, and if you're having a hard time hearing somebody, it'll bring in any radio transmissions that are super close and that you're able to hear. P4 button, probably the most important button on this radio. If you press and hold that button, it's going to lock the keypad, so none of the functions work. You can't change a channel or anything. You got to press and hold to unlock. So now it's unlocked. So now I can continue to show you what's going on. The enter key will get you into the menu functions. I want to show you one of them that's really cool on this radio. So go into radio settings. I'm going to go up, and I'm going to go into dual monitor. So I'm going to turn that dual monitor on. So now when it goes to the main screen, now we have 2 channels showing on the screen. So what that's doing is monitoring both channels. So if somebody's talking on BFG relay or Wilson 2, it's going to come through the radio and into your headset or helmet kit. But the other thing that this does is So wherever your analog or whatever frequency that you're transmitting on, so right now we're on the upper line, that's showing where the A is. So right now if I key up this radio, it'll transmit on BFG relay. If I hit that band button again, it'll drop it down to Wilson 2, so I'll be able to key up on that. So what it allows you to do is you can have race ops on one channel and your race channel on the other. So we'll go back up. So say BFG relay is what your race channel is. You can transmit back and forth on that, but you can still monitor what's going on the race ops channel. And this comes into play too if you're just on a big ride and you've got a big group and everybody's running on, let's just say Wilson 2, yet you and your buddies still want to talk to each other without the whole group knowing about it. You can go to your own frequency. You can talk back and forth. Everybody on Wilson 2, they will not be able to hear you, but you'll still be able to hear all the radio transmissions on Wilson 2. So it's a good way to basically talk crap with your buddy while you're out on a group ride without everybody hearing you. In order to get out of that, you can go back into your utilities again, go into radio settings. I'm going to go up. That'll bring you into your dual monitor. Go to it. You can turn it off, and we'll be back to the single monitor way to do it. Here you can change the channel with the knob, or you can use the up and down arrows. It's whatever you want. Again, the escape or the band button will drop you between each one of the channels. Quick down and dirty rundown on the Rugged Radio's RDM DB. All right, now let's talk about how to pair your ride command to your Rugged intercom. Super easy to do. So if you go into your devices here, hit add device, the intercom will come up Rugged. Just click on that. Takes a few seconds and then it's paired. So now when you go back to your ride command for your music, you can hit your music. So now we have the music coming out of the speakers in the doors. But if you look right up here, there's another little switch. Now it's going through your headset. So it's super easy. You can go from back and forth from the outside speakers into your helmets or headsets. So there you go. Super easy way to connect your Rugged intercom into your ride command, so you can listen to all of your music and stuff through your headsets and or in your helmets. All right, one of the best things that came about of doing this full install video on this XP1 is the fact that Angela and Jason let me do it to their car. They're out of Bakersfield. They have a couple of kids, Lillian and Robert, and they bought some moto kits for their kids as well. So now what it'll do is the radio inside the car will be able to talk to the radio that is on the moto kit that's wired up into their helmets. So when they're out on the trail, mom and dad will be able to tell the kids where they're going, which direction they turned. If one of the kids goes down or something, they can call and say, hey, I need help, and it'll keep them from getting lost. So what a great way to make a great family weekend is to be able to stay connected even when you're on different vehicles cruising through the desert. So that being said, I'm going to wire up a couple of these helmets. I'll show you how to do it with our little quick mounts. It takes about 5 minutes to put them in. Cool thing about it is you can pull them in or put them in a helmet and take them back out real easily, so you can wash liners. If the kids, as they grow, you can move it from one helmet to the next. Works fantastic. All right, let me show you how to do that install. All right, the first thing you're going to want to do is pull both the right and the left cheek pad out of the helmet. This will give you access to where the speakers go. Once you get those out, we'll grab the quick mount and set that up with the new helmet kit. So when you grab the bag that has the quick mount in it, there's a separate bag inside that has 2 Allen wrenches and then a couple of small set screws. You want to make sure you don't lose those set screws. So you'll grab the billet quick mount part, and on the bottom side of it, that's where the 2 threaded holes are for those set screws. Those set screws will do is hold that mic boom in place once you get it positioned correctly. You'll want to put both of those set screws in and just turn them in a couple threads so that they're not intruding on the orifice on the other side that the mic is going to slide through. All right, with those set screws in, you can grab that mic boom. You'll slide it through on the cable end first, and then slide it up onto the outer housing for the mic boom, the flex boom part of it. Once you get it in place, you want to have just a little bit hanging out on the end. That'll position it right in front of your mouth once it's clamped onto the helmet. So once you get it there, you can tighten down those set screws and clamp that mic in place on the quick mount. Just remember to have the voice side of the mic facing towards your mouth. That would be the step in the microphone itself, as you see there. And then there's also written on the bottom, it says voice. That needs to go towards your lips in the helmet. So now we'll take, and on the underside of where the Rugged logo is, there's a channel. And in that channel is where the junction block with the strain relief goes in. So you'll slide that over and put it in the hole, and then just kind of press it in. What this will do is when that quick mount is on the helmet, it'll hold that junction tight, and your cables won't get pulled apart and cause issues down the road. With the quick mount all loaded, it's time to put it in the helmet. So the quick mount slides in between the liner and the shell. So you can slide it on over. Once you get it down in place, you can use the larger Allen wrench and tighten it down to the outer shell. This is a really secure clamp, so you won't have any problems with it coming off. I hear that Robert's quite the moto kid on his 110, so we've got to make sure it's good and snug for him so it doesn't come off. All right, with that quick mount tight, it's time to put the speakers in the helmet. So we removed the cheek pads already. If you look underneath the cheek pads, most helmets have a recessed area for a speaker. That's where you're going to want to put that speaker. Keep in mind where your ears are and you don't put them in the wrong spot, otherwise you won't be able to hear it. So we'll take and peel the white backing off of the Velcro that'll go inside the helmet. Once you get that off, you can just kind of line it up and make sure that the cable for the speaker is not going to cross over any of the snaps or anything that hold the cheek pads in place. Okay, with the left side now done, you can pull these two snaps or whatever's holding the headliner part of the helmet in place. Open that up so you can put that cable that connects to the right speaker there. Again, you'll pull that backing off of the Velcro and then put it in that same indentation on the right side of the helmet. Once you get that done, you'll tuck the excess cable up inside the upper part of the headliner on the helmet and then snap it back in place. Once you get that back in place, you can put your cheek pads back in and you should be ready to rock and roll. It's that easy. Now that Robert's helmet's all wired up, I'm pretty sure he's going to be telling mom and dad that they need to turn up the wick and keep up with him on his 110. So there you have it. Helmets are wired. Super easy to do with the HKQM and one of our rugged helmet kits. That will work with our moto kits, and it'll also work in any of our UTV kits or buggy kits.